There are a lot of measures that show women are less confident in very different ways. Some of them have to do with salary. You've probably seen some of them. When women get out of college or business school, they tend to ask for approximately 20 to 30% less money than the men do. And in fact, when asked what do they deserve, they also say they deserve less money than the men do. A great study that we found by Hewlett-Packard that has since been replicated about promotions. Women tend to put their hand up for a job promotion when they feel they have roughly 100% of the qualifications for the job. Men will do it at 60%. So you can imagine what that means over the course of a career. Also some studies done by two psychologists who are looking at confidence. They've given college students tests in math and science. Mostly they found that the scores were the same, but when the women were asked before they knew how they had done, how they thought they'd done on these tests, they always underestimate how they've done by a large margin. The men overestimate how they've done. And the most interesting test for us really in some ways was one that Zach Estes ran about spatial ability and confidence. And he used spatial ability because it's viewed as something that men tend to be better at. In IQ tests, men are often seen as better at that, and women at verbal ability. So the original scores came back, yes, the women did worse, but he started looking at why, and it was that the women weren't answering a lot of the questions. And when he said, everybody has to answer all of the questions, the scores were almost the same. And then another twist, when he said, everybody answer all the questions, then after each question, he said, how confident are you of that answer? The women's scores dropped again. So just bringing up confidence in the test at all forced a drop in the scores.
There are a couple parts of the book in drawing out the implications of those findings that are really depressing on some level. So I think you might step back from that and say, you know what, that's great. If men are overconfident fools, and women correctly have more humility about what we as fallible human beings know about the world, that's going to be a huge advantage for women.
Right.
And then you actually run the numbers and you find that people projecting overconfidence in the workplace, in academic settings, ends up being a huge advantage.
A guy out at Berkeley, Cameron Anderson, who studies overconfidence, he has found that in many cases, overconfidence is valuable, that confidence can be more important than competence. And for us, that's such a clear divide because women strive to be competent. When we think if we just do a good job, somebody's going to notice and move us to the next level. And what he's found is no. People who are actually not just confident, but slightly overconfident, they get more success, they're viewed as leaders of the pack, their ideas carry more weight. We were depressed by this naturally. And we went back to people, some of the scientists we talked with who study confidence in rats, this really brilliant guy at Cold Spring Harbor Labs, Adam Capex, who screws these electrodes onto these rats' heads and runs them through tests. He put it the best to us, Adam Capex, because he said, confidence ultimately should be a calibration tool for your life, a really important compass. And at the end of the day, you want it to reflect reality, but you want to have a little bit of overconfidence because that's what will spur you to act. And if you don't have a little bit more confidence than maybe your ability would call for, you might not do anything.
And then you have the flip of it. So on the one hand, you find that confidence is important for getting ahead in life. But there are a lot of manifestations of confidence.
Yes.
That when men put them forward are considered to be very attractive. And when women put them forward, to just be blunt about it, the women are then spoken about behind their backs as a bitch.
Right.
There's a study you guys mentioned about female CEOs, that they're judged as more competent when they talk less.
Yes.
And male CEOs are judged as more competent when they talk more.
Yeah.
And so, to me, what was depressing about the book was this confidence bind. On the one hand, society is built to reward confidence, but kind of only in men.
Right. Well, I think we are in a bind to some extent right now for a certain period of time. But I think the landscape is changing quickly. I think with certain generations of male managers, men who are, boomers and older, there may be a sense that kind of traditional looking confidence is what is valued. But more and more, what is exciting is that the way we work in the workplace, women, is really valued. People see that listening, conciliation, negotiation, the lack of hierarchy, that is actually what's valuable in the 21st century workplace. And so this is happening. Christine Lagarde put this paradox to us best. She said, we can't, in pursuing confidence, which is necessary for women, we can't try to be like men because we're going to lose all of those other qualities. We have to dare the difference. We have to make a virtue of the fact that we're doing something different.
Whenever you look at studies like these, you have to think about the fact that they're describing the world as is. And that's a really important thing to do. But how do you both deal with the world as is,
right,
but try to make a world where maybe a certain amount of just being an arrogant asshole is not hugely selected for?
We didn't put it quite that harshly. One of the questions in our book was, do you have to be a jerk
this is
to
new
be
media
confident?
Here.
Exactly. You can say it. And I think it's so interesting to think about what the workplace would look like if it were completely run by women or had been created by women. I mean, again, to come back to Christine Lagarde, she was talking about a panel she was on at Davos, 4 women and 1 man. And she said, the man just kept interrupting everybody. And I, of course, being a TV journalist, said, well, yes, of course, and that's what women need to learn to do. I mean, we have to interrupt or we're never going to get to talk. She said, well, no, actually, in that setting, he seemed really rude.
You have a daughter,
yes,
I believe. And so you're, raising a young woman, and you have all of this data in your head. I mean, what does it say then about being a parent? Like, what do you, again, I guess, do differently, or how do you implement some of these questions?
It's a little overwhelming to suddenly have all this data, and you're like, I've been doing everything wrong. What am I doing? So my daughter is a tomboy and is actually not a girl who wants perfection. And this is one thing we've talked about with what happens with our girls today, is that it's not that they feel that they can't do things. No girl grows up thinking, I can't be an astronaut anymore. Mm-hmm. It's that they're so focused on getting everything right that they're not learning to screw up. And they're not learning to fail and then realize that, oh, okay, I could take a risk, I fail, so what? I mean, they get all the way through college and it's like, and so they don't want to go, try to join a new company. They don't want to, they really are worried about this stuff. And so I have been trying to embrace this side of my daughter more, which it's difficult. I mean, she doesn't want to comb her hair, doesn't want to dress a certain way, sometimes doesn't care if she turns her homework in. And that was not me at all. And I just think, okay, so this is going to be good for her. She'll learn that maybe it is okay not to turn your homework in, or it's not, but I'm going to try to step back a little bit. And it's also refreshing to feel for parents that failure's okay, that you can step back and watch your child fail and it's painful, but that if you can also then at the same time hear yourself, wow, great life lesson. Mm-hmm. It stops you from wanting to jump in and fix it.
So what is the single lesson that you think men should take from the book?
A lot of people, people have been asking us that too, and some of the talks we've been giving, men have been saying, is there something we can do
I'd like to make this about us.
Make it about you. How intriguing. I think it's really important for men to understand that women are not always, maybe their female colleagues, are just not always speaking up about their own accomplishments. And if men care about it, to give them a nudge. I mean, this is what we've actually said in the book too, that the best thing you can do for a colleague or a friend or a daughter is not, oh, it's okay, you're great, really, tell me more. Yeah. It's, you know what, get out there and do that. What? Go ahead. What do you have to lose? Like, give a little push. That women often need that little push that men just don't seem to need, although some men do.
It's funny because I feel like all of the relationship advice until like this moment in my life has been, do not respond to people being upset by confidently giving them advice on how to solve their problems.
Oh my God, we're gonna have to go on Dr. Phil now. This is horrible. Yes, I think I don't know that I'm speaking about relationship advice because that's true. I'm trying to think if I'd want my husband saying, what's wrong with you? Just get out there and do it. But I do think in the workplace, a nudge or a, have you thought about this? Why don't you think about that? I mean, it really, the Marie Wilson, who ran for a long time the White House Project, which was all about getting women in politics, said that they have found, with all the studies they've done over the years, that women just don't naturally look in the mirror, as she said, and see themselves as senators. But all it takes is one person saying to them, you should run for city council.
Yeah.
And that push is what can make the difference.